Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to another Wild Rift video. And in today's video, I'll be showing you guys a tier list for every single role in the game. So many of you guys have been waiting for this. I've had dozens of comments asking for tier lists, but here it is. Finally, the tier lists. There are timestamps in the description to skip to the different roles, and so much has changed. It's crazy. Like the fact that, for example, Jax is in the S+ tier in the Baron lane right now, like that's just the smallest change that's happening because the jungle got turned upside down, the mid lane changed a lot changed, a lot. But before we get into the tier list, just a quick word from the video sponsor. This video is sponsored by HellsDevil, and you can honestly find everything that you need about Wild Rift on this website. So, like, for example, what I really enjoy is these Europe champions, right? Like, you can see what the top champions are. And honestly, it makes sense to me that Jinx is the most picked champion, but Master Yi, really? And 53.4% win rate. Like, here you can see all the champions, and what is most interesting to me is, like, actually, you know what's most interesting? Because right now I've put it on the last 30 days. So let's actually see which champions are good the last 30 days. I actually want to look at Jax. Wait. We put it on the Baron lane. 30 days, Master Plus. I want to find Jax. Jax, 47% win rate. So the last 30 days, Jax had a 47% win rate in the Baron lane. Makes sense, right? Because Jax was not good in the Baron lane. But if we put it in the jungle, then Jax is 52. You see that? Wait, you can't see it? There you go. You see that? Jax is 52 in the jungle. So too much in the jungle and too little in the Baron lane. And what if we actually put it at 1 day ago? Because the new patch came out 1 day ago. Jax is still very strong in the jungle, but we just don't have many games to analyze. But then if we look at the Baron lane, he used to be, yeah, look at that. He's one of the most picked Baron laners right now during the last day, and a 52% win rate as well. So like the buff really made Jax stronger. If you want to check out some of those champions as well, then check out my link in the description to go to HellsDevil. Alright, on to the tier list. So a lot of people are going to criticize me for this, but I'm still going to say it because this is what I think. Fiora S+ tier, best Baron laner in the game. And I know I have not made a Fiora video. I know, I just don't understand how that happened. I honestly haven't played that much Wild Rift. You know, enough excuses. I am gonna make it, but I am gonna make it. Fiora is the best Baron laner in the game. Like, she 1v1s everyone. Her split pushing potential is crazy good. And especially with the new turret plates as well. She can take those turret plates so incredibly fast. And just, Fiora is just insanely strong right now. She's really strong if picked in a correct draft. Next up we got Sett, and Sett got buffed for some reason. He was already insane. I have no clue why he got buffed. His second ability deals more damage now because it skills harder with attack damage. And yeah, Sett is just really strong. You still build him with a Conqueror. He's just very solid right now. He does well into every Baron laner, except for Singed, I guess. But every Baron laner he does pretty well into. So you can always pick him. And he counters tanks as well. And it's just insane, like insanely strong. Next up, we got my boy Jax, guys. And wow. Jax is so strong. It is unbelievable how strong Jax became with the changes that he got. You can stack up your stacks faster, the attack speed. You have more base damage on your first ability, more base damage on your second ability, which means in the early game, you're going to deal so much more damage during the laning phase. So you'll deal more damage during the laning phase. And we all know late game Jax is a monster. So they buffed the part of Jax that is weak, which is his early game. So his early game is not as weak anymore, so you can actually trade evenly in lane and even win your lane in the early game. And then when you get to the late game, it's game over for the enemy. So very strong. Next up, actually, I would put Riven below Wukong, Darius, and Renekton. First of all, let's talk about Wukong. Wukong is crazy. Like, he even got buffed because you can now jump over walls with your second ability. But even before that, like, his first ability is just way too powerful right now. He can trade so well in lane. And he's also one of those champions you don't really lose lane with. Unless you're against like a super hard counter, but like even if you're up against a Fiora as a Wukong, when Fiora dashes to you, you just use your first ability and you out-trade her because you heal up and you do a lot of damage to her. So that's the thing with Wukong. And then of course his late game team fighting is just crazy strong. Next up we got Darius, and Darius is good. Darius is great. He's just very solid. You know, he did get nerfed his attack speed, but he's still great. Like Black Cleaver Darius is just way too good because the bleed reduces the armors of all of the enemies that you have applied the effect on. Trinity Force Darius is great as well against squishies. Darius is just good. He's just good. He can solo carry games, and I will make a Darius video for you guys very soon. Next up, we got Renekton, and Renekton is amazing. Like, he got buffed recently. And then also the Kraken Slayer buff. It applies to Renekton as well. You can actually play Kraken Slayer Renekton now. Like, if you're against a Mundo or something in your lane, you're like, you can dash in, do 3 attacks, and dash out, and the Kraken Slayer is gonna do quite a decent chunk of damage early game, but also in the late game. Like, you'll do like 200 true damage with the Kraken Slayer in the late game every 3 attacks, and Renekton does attacks very rapidly because of his second ability as well. So it's good. Like, it's good. Renekton is good, and even Conqueror Renekton is still very good. Next up, we got Riven. Riven got nerfed for higher elo, but she got buffed in lower elo, I guess. She has more base health, but her third ability gives her less barrier, but that nerfs her in high elo, and that's why I put her below Wukong, Darius, and Renekton. She's still insane, but she's just not quite as unkillable as she used to be anymore. You can actually shred through the shield now instead of, you know, like never being able to shred through that massive shield of Riven, because the shield is a bit smaller now. Next up, we got Garen. Garen is always a safe pick. Grasp of the Undying Garen is crazy strong, like so unbelievably toxic, so unbelievably strong. I'm actually gonna make a full AD Garen video for you guys. Full AD, not a tank Garen, like full AD, just because it's fun. I'm gonna do that sometime soon. I want to do one more change, by the way, which is this. I'm sorry that I'm doing these last minute changes, but sometimes, like, I think a bit differently about a champion, or I forgot to put a champion in a certain way, but yeah. Next up, we got Aurelia. Aurelia, I mean, the good Aurelia players are gonna smash you. She's not S plus tier anymore, because they actually nerfed her pretty decently. They nerfed her ultimate, it does less damage, it slows less, and they nerfed something else about her as well. Essentially, she's not broken anymore. She's just good. Like, you know, good Aurelia player is still gonna destroy you, but the average Aurelia player is not gonna be able to do that much with this champion. Next up, we got Camille. Camille's very strong as well, you know, very strong. It's just her early game kind of sucks now, but if you get to the late game, it's still the same Camille. Like, it's definitely still the same Camille. But yeah, the nerf did hit her very hard. Like, not being able to do true damage early game. Conqueror got nerfed. You basically go for Grasp of the Undying on Camille now, because that's the best thing to do. It skills with AD as well. So Camille is decent, pretty good even, just not quite S plus tier, I would say. Next up is Gragas, who's the same story. Like, if this guy reaches late game, you hard carry the game. And I've always said that I think Gragas is broken, but I also have to look at how other people play it. Like, I always carry on Gragas. I don't know how or why, but when I play full AP Gragas, I always carry the game. But I don't see it happen for other people. So that makes me question, like, is it just me that's good at full AP Gragas, or is full AP Gragas just broken and everyone sucks at it? I just think I am good at a full AP Gragas, because it is insane. But if you don't actually hit your combos with the flash and everything like that, and his ultimate is of course a bit harder to hit now, he's not gonna be that strong, because he's really all about actually hitting your abilities, because if you don't, like, his basic attacks don't do anything. Next up is Teemo, and yes, Teemo, yes, I'm not lying to you guys, yes, Teemo. The new Teemo is absolutely insane. He is so powerful. The new ultimate, oh man, the new ultimate is so good. Like, during those late game teamfights, you just constantly throw down your ultimates, and when an enemy steps into them, they're gonna be slowed for 3 seconds. They're gonna be taking massive damage, and they can't do anything about it. They can't, like, run out of your mushroom. The slow is gonna be applied to them, and the damage is gonna be applied to them regardless of what they do. It's just so unbelievably toxic. And then to add to that, the first ability buff is so good as well in the lane. Like, the 0.5 extra range really allows you to poke from a far distance. And then to add to that as well, the buff to the third ability, you can very easily just become invisible whenever you want to go onto the enemy. Just Teemo feels good now. He's not broken, he just feels good. He feels great. Next up is Malphite, and Malphite is insane as well because of the Iceborne Gauntlet. Like, I'm gonna make a Malphite video for you guys too. Iceborne Gauntlet Malphite is so powerful. Like, he actually does so much damage, and he's so tanky because Iceborne Gauntlet gives him the Sheen proc. Every time you use your second ability, you know, any other ability, but it's especially combined with the second ability, you just do so much burst damage, and you slow the enemies. You're unkillable, and just the way that Malphite works. Like, it's very easy to lane with Malphite, and he provides a lot of value during team fights as well. Next up is Shen. Shen is very good as well. Shen, the thing with Shen is though, you can't solo carry the game. Not really. You have to have at least one good teammate. At least one teammate that understands how to play with a Shen. Because like, that one teammate has to go in, engage, soak up damage, and then you as a Shen, you ult that teammate, and then you're in the middle of the enemy. That's the power of Shen, right? But if an enemy doesn't know how to do that, Shen sucks. Next up is Graves. Baron Lane Graves is solid, not amazing, just solid. You know, Black Cleaver Graves. They did nerf his crit part, but he's still very solid. Jace, I mean, Jace, that's my bird, by the way. Jace is pretty good as well. He does fall off in the late game. I want to say something about Jace, by the way, which actually makes me put him a lot lower because I forgot about this. Yes, here. Let me tell you something about Jace. You guys remember patch 3.3 that they reduced all ultimate cooldowns, right? Like every champion has a reduced cooldown. You know, kill, Nasus, cannon, etc, etc. Jace doesn't. Jace is still the same. Essentially, every single champion in the game got buffed because they reduced the ultimate cooldowns, except champions like Jace, who don't actually have an ultimate cooldown, or Corki, for example. These champions got nerfed because everyone else got buffed. So that's what's making me put Jace in top of the A tier now instead of the S tier, because every champion is stronger. As I said, every single champion is stronger, but Jace didn't get any stronger in this patch. Next up, we have Tryndamere. You know, Tryndamere is great. Not amazing, just great. Mundo is... I really love Mundo, by the way. I really love Mundo. He's so powerful, like, when I play him, but... yeah, actually, why am I not even putting him higher? Like, I genuinely think Mundo is, like, high up in the S tier, but I just never see him. And there must be a reason for that, right? I never, ever see a Mundo. I don't know why. Because he's actually so powerful. Like, his first ability is so good, his tankiness, his ultimate, all the bonus attack damage that he gets, he does so much damage. So, I put him in the S tier. Olaf as well, you know, he's just great. He's great. Olaf is just so broken because of his ultimate, to be honest, and his true damage. Like, even in the Baron lane, he works so well. And Singed, regardless of his ultimate nerf, he's still amazing. He's very good, very strong. With the Rylai Scepter, with the Leandris, my nose is itching. So yeah. Next up is Nasus. Nasus got nerfed. Like, his first ability is so much weaker in the early game now, which doesn't necessarily make him weaker. It's just because his first ability is on a much longer cooldown, he's not going to be able to accumulate as many stacks as he used to be anymore. Which results in a weaker late game, because you're not going to have as many stacks, which, yes, is a nerf to Nasus. So Nasus is still solid, just not S tier anymore. Cannon is good. I don't really want to talk about anyone else. Not that interesting, to be honest, but Cannon is good. Like, Cannon with his ultimate is pretty nice. Next up, we got the jungle. And look who is here. Can we just look at who is sitting there, guys? It's your girl, Shyvana. And I'm going to make a goal for this video right now. Right now. I don't have a Shyvana video yet. Right now, I've played like 5 games of Shyvana. And I think 3 out of 5 games I got MVP. And these were my first games in ranked. If this video reaches 2,000 likes, I promise you guys, I'll make a Shyvana video. And I'm gonna make a good one. Like, I'm gonna master Shyvana. You guys know it, right? Like, I only make a video on champions that I've mastered. I will go on a vacation, though. Keep in mind, like, between the 21st and the 28th, I'm on vacation. So I'm not gonna be able to play then. But if this video reaches that amount of likes, 2,000, I'll do it. Shyvana. Also, I'm giving away 3 coaching sessions. All you have to do to enter is put a comment under this video. And you can win the coaching session. Alright, next up is Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix is so powerful in the jungle as well, right? Like, his isolated damage is just way too good, honestly. Like, he can 1v1 anyone, and in the late game, if he catches you out like a squishy, you just get one-shot by him. Next up, we got Wukong. You know, Wukong early game is okay. Because, you know, he doesn't actually win those sustained fights as easily in the early game, but Wukong's mid-late game is a different story. His late game with his ultimate, with his sustaining, like, just him being able to constantly use that first ability of his, which does so much damage, which heals him up for so much, and then that ultimate as well throughout the teamfight, he's way too strong right now. He needs to get nerfed. Next up is Lee Sin, which I like to call the biggest enabler in the game. He enables his teammates, right? Like, you can gank so easily, he can dive so deep. Even in the late game, you still have his ultimate, which is good, right? Like, his ultimate does so much damage and is a great CC ability to push enemies away. So he's just great. Like, he provides so much in the early game, and he still has something to offer in the late game. Next up is Olaf, and Olaf jungle is also crazy. Like, during teamfights, you can run the enemies down, especially if you have enchanters in your team. If you pick Olaf with like a Yumi or a Lulu, he's even stronger. Like, if they buff you, he's even way stronger. Next up is Riven. Riven jungle, yeah. Like, same story. She's still S plus tier. Sure, her shield got nerfed, but Riven is just way too strong still. Riven needs to get, like, a good nerf. Riven really needs to get a good nerf. Like, maybe they should nerf her ultimate, or just nerf her. Just nerf her. Whatever it is, just nerf her again. She deserves a nerf. Echo jungle as well. So powerful. Like, his early game is weak, but his mid-late game, he one-shots you like crazy. His ultimate is also so unbelievably powerful in the late game. Like, if you're unable to hard CC Echo, he's just gonna ult and he's gonna get away anyway. So even if he does get caught out, he still has his ultimate to just get away whenever he wants to. Next up is Evelynn, who I like to call one of the most disgusting champions in the game. And when I play Evelynn, like, every game is just a carry game because it's crazy. Her ganking is out of this world because she's literally invisible. She can go to any lane, ignore any wards, and gank anyone. Her ultimate is a crazy good assassinating ability. And in the very late game, she doesn't even need her ultimate. You just one-shot everyone. Like, just use your third ability, first ability, and you one-shot everyone. Evelynn is just, like... I honestly don't know about what Riot was thinking when they made this champion. It's a crazy strong assassin. Next up is Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao got nerfed, and the nerf hurt him. He used to be S plus tier, but now he's S tier because of the nerf to his first ability. They nerfed the cooldown by 1 second, which essentially nerfs all of his abilities. Because his first ability reduces cooldown of all of his other abilities. So, yeah, he is nerfed, and you can definitely feel it. Like, you can definitely feel the nerf. Don't get me wrong, he's still very strong, he's just not broken anymore. Next up is Nunu. Nunu is a great tank, AP damage dealer, and he has good CC as well, and good sustain. And also, like, with Nunu, you can secure objectives super easily because of his first ability. Like, he does so much damage with his smite, so just a solid jungler. He doesn't really have that much of a hard carry potential like the other junglers have, but he brings value with his own things that I just mentioned. Next up is Morgana jungle. Morgana is the fastest jungle clear in the game. She has good ganking if you're skilled with her. And of course, her late game teamfighting is absolutely incredible. The ultimate, the first ability, the second ability, even the black shield. All of these things are just so strong in the late game. So get to the late game and Morgana is like broken. Next up is Gragas jungle. Same story as the Baron lane. Full AP Gragas is so powerful. His ganking is really good. Like, Gragas is good ganking. He has good jungle clear as well. And as I said, his late game hard carrying potential is out of this world. He one-shots everyone. His abilities are so powerful. They scale incredibly hard into the late game. So Gragas, he works everywhere. He works in the jungle as well. Next up is Vi. The one thing that I like about Vi... Actually, no, there's a few things. The one thing that I really like about Vi is her ultimate. Regardless of who you're up against, what you're up against, you can ult whoever you want. And in the late game, the cooldown is very low. So it counters stasis enchant as well, because the cooldown is so low. Like, the cooldown of stasis is very long, and Vi's ultimate is going to be low. So even if an enemy stasis is your ultimate, within like 20 seconds, you're going to ult him again. So that's what makes Vi super good now. And Vi is so tanky in the late game as well. Like, Vi is kind of an early game champion, but in the late game, she's so tanky. Like, with her second ability as well, which gives her movement speed and a shield, she does so much damage, and she's so tanky. And then, of course, that ultimate as well, which allows her to catch anyone. If you just have a team that follows up well, then Vi is really strong. Graves jungle, his jungle clear did get nerfed, but he's still very good. You know, his jungle clear is going to be a few seconds longer, but he's still very good. Like, his late game is super powerful. It's just his ganking that's not that good. Like, he's really not that good at ganking. He's good at skirmishes, he's good at late game team fighting, but his ganking is not that powerful. Next up is Irelia. I don't even want to talk about Irelia, to be honest, guys. Because you know the drill. Irelia is broken with the good player, blah blah blah. She's pretty good at ganking, late game Irelia hard carrying, you know, the stupid Irelia players. I'm joking. You know, don't take any offense. I respect every single player. Except Irelia players. Next up is... No, it's actually a joke. Or is it? Next up is Mundo. Mundo jungle, very powerful as well. Like, he can take jungle pretty fast. His ganking is really not that good, but his skirmishing is amazing. He's so strong during skirmishes because the lower amount of HP he gets, the stronger he actually becomes. Like, he gets more AD the lower his HP gets. And then, of course, late game Mundo is unbelievably tanky as well. Next up is Camille. And Camille, you know, she can clear jungle pretty decently. Her ganking is great. She has really good ganking. Late game, she can catch out anyone. Her late game power is just very good. It's just her early game sucks. Her early game skirmishing is really not that good. That's why she's sitting at the bottom of the S tier. Set, they nerfed him way too hard for the jungle. His jungle clear is really not that fast. His early game skirmishing is fine, sure. His ganking is not the best. Like, you really have to use flash and ultimate to get a good gank. But he's still decent. Like, of course, late game he skills very, very well. He's decent. Next up, Nautilus jungle. And now it's actually playable because they buffed his jungle clear. I believe they buffed his third ability. It does a bit more damage to camps. So his jungle clear is just a bit better now. He can maneuver around the map pretty easily with his first ability. You can just hook walls every single time, so he becomes very, very fast. And Nautilus is just a very big tank to have in your jungle. Like, if you really need a tank in your team, you can pick Nautilus jungle. Next up is Pantheon jungle, who I like to call the weaker Lee Sin. He does the exact same thing as Lee Sin, which is enable your teammates, but he is useless in the late game. Like, at least Lee Sin has his ultimate in the late game, but Pantheon is just useless in the late game. Now Jarvan. Jarvan is a bit underrated because his third ability, like, besides Jarvan's kit, where he can knock up enemies, shred their armors with his first ability, use his ultimate, the third ability is super underrated because the third ability buffs the attack speeds of your entire team. The range is massive. Like, I'm not sure if you guys actually know the range of the third ability. It is massive. It is really big. Like, even if your ADC is like pretty far away from the third ability, they still get the bonus attack speed. So, like, you putting down your third ability in the middle of a fight, it doesn't just allow you to knock up enemies, it just buffs your entire team. So that is what Jarvan does, and that's what you will have to keep your eyes on as well when you play Jarvan. Next up is Rammus, who is the big tank against AD champions, right? Like, Thornmail Rammus is so hard to deal with. His ganking is absolutely amazing. Like, it's so good. But of course, his solo carrying is not that good. Now, talking about solo carrying, we move on to Rengar. This is the solo carrying champion in the game. Although the nerf hit him really hard. Like, the nerf that they did to his base attack damage really hit him hard. He has lower jungle clear. He is a weaker early game. Like, it's much harder for him to come online because you have to get kills with those low stats that he has right now. You have to try to pick off some free kills in some lanes because it's really hard to actually get proper kills with him. Like, if you're in a proper 1v1, you're really not going to kill anyone as a Rengar in the early game. I want to talk about Master Yi as well because he's actually strong. Like, he's actually still pretty strong. He's stronger than Jace, actually. Jace shouldn't be above him. Yeah, he's actually still pretty strong. Like, you just go for... I should make a Master Yi video for you guys too, by the way. There's a few different builds that you can go for. The full crit build or the Blade of the Rune King Wits End build, depending on what you want. He's actually still very strong. Next up, Jax jungle. He's sitting in the seat here, guys. What happened to Jax? He's not there anymore. He's not there. We might as well just hide him away. Jax is not playable in the jungle anymore. He's dead. He's literally dead. His jungle clear is so unbelievably slow now because you don't stack up your stacks, the attack speed stacks in the jungle anymore. You just can't play him in the jungle anymore. He's dead. So next up we go on to the mid lane. And Diana, broken, right? We all know it. Diana is still insanely powerful. Her ultimate, just the value she provides, her ganking, everything is broken about Diana. But next up, we got a special champion, Ahri. I think the Ahri rework makes her kind of broken. It's like so there's a few parts of her kit that I think are insane. So first of all, they actually nerfed her third ability. That's the only thing they nerfed about her for the compensation she got. When you charm an enemy, you don't deal 20% bonus damage to that enemy anymore. So you'll just charm that enemy. But the second ability moves a bit faster now. It moves a bit more easily. The ultimate gives you extra charges when you kill an enemy or get an assist. So you literally have more ultimates. And if you kill an enemy or get an assist, you heal up by a lot. So as an Ahri, when you're team fighting, it's not all in anymore. Because that's what Ahri used to be like, right? Like, you all in with your ultimate, you charm the enemy. Second ability, first ability, boom, you get a kill. Or if you don't get a kill, you're screwed. Now, if you go in, you use all of your abilities, and if one of your teammates gets a kill, you have your ultimate again. You have one charge of your ultimate again, which allows you to get close to the enemies again, use your charm again, and catch another enemy. You kill that enemy, and then yes, boom, you go again. You'll have your ultimate again up to 3 times. It's just so powerful. And then on top of that, you'll heal up. Like, you'll heal up constantly. So if you take damage, you're constantly healing up. Every time you use your abilities, you heal up. And you're going to be using more abilities now because of the charges of the ultimate. And you heal up when you kill an enemy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Ahri is crazy now. Next up, we got Orianna. Yet again, the safe broken champion. The broken, safe champion, Orianna. Always a good champion. Just get through the early game and you can carry any game. It doesn't matter how lost a game seems, Orianna can carry any game. Next up we got Katarina, and Katarina got buffed. I believe her ultimate damage got buffed. And then also they reduced ultimate cooldowns, but this really helps Katarina as opposed to other champions, because whenever you get a takedown, she reduces 15 seconds of the ultimate cooldown. So her ultimate cooldown used to be 45 seconds, I believe. What I'm trying to say is, it used to be like this, where if you get 2 takedowns, you still need to wait a few more seconds to get your ultimate. Now, because they reduced 5 seconds of the ultimate, if you get 2 takedowns, you'll instantly have your ultimate on the max level. So that makes Katarina much stronger. You only need 2 kills or assists and you'll literally get your ultimate again. And even if you get only 1 kill or assist, you just need to wait a few more seconds and you'll get your ultimate up as well. As opposed to the old Katarina, who had to wait for a bit longer. Next up is your girl, Aurelia. And yes, sitting in the S+ tier in the mid lane. Even though she got nerfed, mid lane Aurelia is still crazy. Like, if she catches you with a stun, she'll do so much damage and you'll just have to stand under your turret all game long. But she can dive turrets so easily as well. It's just stupid. Next up we got Yasuo. Yasuo is insanely powerful as well. Like, in the mid lane, he's so strong. The new tornado with the Yasuo, it's so much easier to hit your tornado now. So you can actually make so many more plays with Yasuo now, because the enemy, it's harder for the enemy to dodge the tornado. Next up is Karma mid. Karma does way too much damage. She gives way too much shielding. She can play the lane way too safe, and she skills way too hard into the late game. Her early game is strong. Her late game is strong. Everything is strong about Karma. Next up is Veigar. Veigar is not S+ tier anymore, because they actually, they nerfed him. They nerfed his tankiness. So he's more prone to getting assassinated. So still very strong, still does the same damage, but he's weaker against assassins because he has lower HP and lower resistances. Next up is Akshan, and with the new Kraken Slayer, it works on Akshan. It's actually really good on Akshan. And Akshan is stronger than people think. Like, this champion right here is way stronger than people think he is. His basic attacks in lane, he has so many different passives that you can abuse. His third ability does so much damage if you can use it properly, like during teamfights. If you can go around an enemy, it will do so much damage. It's unbelievable. His ganking is also good. And then, of course, that stupid passive of his second ability, which revives allies when he gets takedowns, right? Like, when he assists or kills a scoundrel. It's really big. Now, Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate actually kinda got nerfed. They nerfed the attack speed of his third ability, and they nerfed his base attack damage. But they did buff the AP scaling of his first ability. It's only by 5%, but still, Twisted Fate is in the S tier right now, in the mid lane. He does a bit more burst damage now, just a bit more, but his sustained damage did get nerfed a little bit. Next up is Zed, and yes, the ultimate changes buffed Zed as well, because Stasis became more expensive. Zed's ultimate is going to be on a lower cooldown, and it's great for him, right? It's great, because now he's going to be able to use his ultimate more easily. They especially reduced the cooldown of his early game ultimate for Zed, by the way. I remember that, actually, so that's very good. And yeah, he's going to be able to bully enemies much more with his ultimate. Next up is Echo mid. And Echo does struggle in the laning phase because he's a melee champion and he really doesn't have too many tools to actually trade with an enemy besides his first ability. So if you can just get through that struggling early game, he's insanely broken in the late game. Next up is Ziggs. And Ziggs, I love Ziggs. Like, it's kind of like Orianna, but not as easy. Like, with Orianna, it's so easy to do damage. But with Ziggs, you actually have to hit your abilities. But it's the same story. And then the thing with Ziggs is he has his ultimate, which is one of the best ultimates in the game. The Mega Inferno Bomb, right? You can throw it onto the enemy, you just chunk down half of their HP, and the fight hasn't even started yet. Next up is Gragas mid. Gragas can be played in mid lane as well, right? Same story. And then Akali mid. Akali is weak early game. She's actually very weak early game, but then if she skills into the mid-late game, she becomes the hard carry Akali we all know, right? But that the weak early game, that's what hurts her. That's what's putting her in the middle of the S tier and not anything higher. So she's still better than the average, because the average would be like between A tier and S tier. But she's not amazing. She's not amazing. You really have to be good at the champion. Next up is Corki. Same story, right? Like, everyone got buffed except for Corki, because Corki's ultimate did not get reduced because he has those rockets. So every champion got stronger except for Corki and Jace and champions like that, right? So keep that in mind when playing Corki. But he's still solid, right? Like, with the package and everything like that, still a solid champion. I want to talk about Brand as well. I had something to say about Brand. Oh, Conqueror nerf. Because of the Conqueror nerf, it actually nerfed Brand, because Brand absolutely loved Conqueror. So now you kind of go for Electrocute on Brand. He's still good. He's still good. Like, yeah, he's definitely still good. And I still haven't made a Brand video. I actually played like 100 Brand games, but I still haven't fully mastered him as much as I wanted to. So I haven't made a video on him yet. I'll make a video when I've mastered it. I'm sorry guys for the delay. I know a lot of people want to see Brand, but I'm not going to make a video like fully explaining a champion if I haven't actually mastered the champion yet. Next up is Galio. Galio got buffed. His second ability doesn't slow him as much anymore, but I still only recommend you to pick Galio if you're against a mage assassin. Like the Diana, like the Katarina, like the, where's Echo, and Akali. These 4 champions right here, these are the champions that I recommend you to pick Galio against, because you'll win your lane for free. And Fizz, by the way, him as well. Anyone else? Pyke. Pyke mid is good. It's not amazing, it's good. His ganking is pretty good, but like, meh. He can get poked in his lane very, very easily. Like, sure, you have good tools to catch out an enemy, but if you're unable to catch an enemy, if you're against an Orianna or something, she can just stand behind her minions and constantly poke you at all times. So that's why I don't really recommend it. Teemo mid as well, like, it's good, but he really wants to be on the side lane. He wants to be on his own, 1v1s, no crazy ranged champion. Like, Teemo sucks against ranged champions. He loves to be against melee champions because he can bully melee champions. But if you're up against like Ahri or Akshan or anything like that, they're really gonna bully you. So that's why I really don't like him in the mid lane. Next up is the Dragon lane. And the only changes that really happened in the Dragon lane is like champions who loved the old Conqueror kinda got nerfed. Like, sure, Vayne likes Conqueror, but Vayne also likes Lethal Tempo. So Vayne is kind of the strongest laner in the game right now. I definitely think Vayne is the strongest because she can carry so hard. And yeah, she's just so powerful right now. Like, with the Lethal Tempo, very, very strong. Ezreal did get nerfed because of the Conqueror, but he still feels like the best ADC in the game. Like, besides Vayne, he still feels way too powerful. Like, you just go for Trinity Force, Man Immune Trinity Force, and he does way too much damage with his first ability. The poking is just unbelievable. I still haven't tested out Kraken Slayer Ezreal. I've heard some people tell me about it. I'm gonna have to test it. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you guys anything about it because I actually don't know. It may be good, but I still have to test it. Next up is Varus, who's... Actually, no, what am I saying? Varus got nerfed. No. I forgot about the nerf. I forgot that they nerfed Varus so hard, actually. They nerfed Lethality Varus. How did I forget that? They buffed on-hit Varus, which is AP Varus and like Blade of the Rune King Varus, but they nerfed... No, they nerfed him really hard, actually. Like, he's all the way here. They nerfed the Varus where you're just constantly poking the enemies with your arrows. Like, the arrow is going to be on a much higher cooldown now. Yeah, no more Varus. Like, he's good, but he's not that good anymore. Next up is Lucian. Insanely powerful. They did nerf the Conqueror, but the new Conqueror still works pretty well with Lucian because it gives him vampirism. So it's still pretty good on him. Next up is Jinx. Same story. Conqueror got nerfed, but Jinx can go for Lethal Tempo. So Jinx is fine. Like, sure, Conqueror is probably better on Jinx. It's questionable because with the rockets, Conqueror is better. But if you use the minigun, then Lethal Tempo is better. So Lethal Tempo Jinx is still very good here. Kai'Sa, same story. You go for Lethal Tempo. You don't need a Conqueror. She's very good. Next up is Xayah. And Xayah did get nerfed as well. Like, she's still very powerful. But because Conqueror nerf, like, you'll do less damage now with Xayah. But Lethal Tempo Xayah is also pretty good. Ashe, Lethal Tempo as well. But she just doesn't feel as strong as the S+ tier champions. But she's still very powerful. Like, don't get me wrong, the S tier champions, especially the champions that are on top of the S tier, are still very powerful. Caitlyn, same story. Lethal Tempo Caitlyn is still insanely powerful. She only has that part in the mid game where she sucks, but early game Caitlyn has insane poking, and late game Caitlyn has insane range and insane damage. So it's just the mid game that sucks for Caitlyn for some reason, but early and late game she's insane. Next up we got Ziggs and Orianna, who honestly have the same story. Like, APCs are still pretty good. You can just go for Luden's Echo, push out waves, and you'll outpush anyone. Like, they'll push the waves super fast. And of course, they're very strong carries too. Just make sure you have enough attack damage in your team before you pick these champions. And then you should be fine. Like, you should be fine. Next up is Draven. Something happened with Draven. Conqueror nerf, which is a Draven rune. Draven doesn't need the vampirism as much from the Conqueror. He already has a Bloodthirster. The bonus damage that Conqueror gives him really allowed him to maintain his damage during teamfights. Lethal Tempo Draven is theoretically the best, but then you're gonna have to catch like 4 or 5 axes every second. So unless you can very easily do that, then Draven just got nerfed, because Conqueror Draven is weaker now. Next up, yeah, I already talked about Varus. Karma, you know, same story as Orianna and Ziggs, although Karma doesn't do as much poke damage as them. And then Jhin actually feels good now. He's definitely sitting in a comfortable A tier. His root is very strong. Now, his first ability, poking in lane, is very strong. But besides, another reason why he's actually a bit stronger now is because Conqueror got nerfed and Jhin doesn't use Conqueror. So other champions got nerfed. But still, other ADCs still feel stronger. Next up is Veigar. Veigar, I really love Veigar in the Dragon lane, especially when you combine him with like an Alistar, because Alistar goes in, you put down your third ability as a Veigar, and the enemies are caged in, and it should be a kill. And then of course, Veigar's late game is insanely powerful as well. So Veigar works in the Dragon lane, you just have to know how to play him. And now Twisted Fate in the Dragon lane is really not that strong anymore, because they nerfed it. They nerfed the attack speed your third ability gives, and they nerfed his base attack damage. You can still play it, but it's really not that strong. Tristana, I don't really like Tristana. Like, sure, you go for lethal tempo on Tristana, but I personally don't. Man, she's not that weak though. She would be somewhere here. I really don't like Tristana that much right now, to be honest. Like, she takes so long to skill into the late game. It's so hard to play her properly as well. Like, with the third ability and everything like that, it's just hard to play. And then Akshan, you know, he's good, but you're much better off playing him in the mid lane. Senna, you can play Senna with a tank, but still in solo queue, meh. And then Misfortune just sucks. Like, Misfortune just kind of sucks. Next up, we got the support. And it's still the same in the S+ tier. We got Yuumi and we got Karma. Woohoo! Yay! Yuumi and Karma. Definitely not a surprise. I'm not even gonna talk about that, right? Like, you know the drill. Yuumi, hard carry. Karma, stupid shielding. Even though they nerfed the shielding, it's not enough of a nerf. It's definitely not enough. Like, it's only like a 30 flat nerf. No one cares about that. People are still gonna play Karma. But the next champion that I want to talk about is this guy right here, Pyke. He feels so good now. He feels so good now as a support. Like, his stun is longer. His damage scales higher into the late game because he gets more damage every level, more attack damage every level. And as I said, the stun is longer now of his third ability. And I believe they buffed something else about him as well. But essentially, his ultimate is also stronger because he gets more attack damage. His skills hard, like, he gets more scaling into the late game. And oh, he's hard to play. But if you can play him, guys, he's super slippery because of his third ability and his second ability, which makes him super fast. He can catch out enemies, and of course, he can finish off enemies and give gold to his team. Because when you kill an enemy or get an assist with your ultimate, you get the gold and your teammate gets the gold. 100% of the kill. So if you shut down an enemy for 1,000 gold, both of you are going to get that, and it's going to total 2,000 gold for you guys. Next up is Nami. Nami is insanely good as well. Like, her laning phase is so strong. Her bubbles, her CC, everything like that. Just Nami is like, I think Nami is way too strong. Like, just her poking in lane alone, it feels so annoying to get hit by the Nami's second ability. And then the late game, her ultimate is just crazy because the tidal wave gives movement speed to your allies, a lot of movement speed, and it knocks up enemies and it slows them by a lot. It's way too strong, honestly, like way too strong. Next up is Thresh. Thresh is way stronger now as well because his passive skills more into the late game. Whenever you pick up a soul, instead of getting 1.5 armor and 1.5 ability power, you actually get 2 armor now. So you get more armor in the late game, which is going to make you tankier, of course. And this is going to accumulate to a lot. Like, the 0.5 armor, if you have like 50 stacks, it's already 25 bonus armor. So you're going to take much less damage from attack damage champions as a Thresh. And Thresh by itself is already very strong, right? Like, Thresh has great abilities to catch out enemies. And the second ability is amazing to save your teammates as well. Thresh is just very solid. Next up is Rakan, who's also very solid. You know, you go full AP Rakan. You do so much damage. You can be so aggressive and so slippery as well with the third ability. And his, like, all of his abilities have so much mobility. So Rakan is very good right now. His team fighting and everything like that. Next up is Lulu. Kind of the same story as Yuumi, but just not quite as good at it as Yuumi. You know, Lulu buffs teammates, but not as much as Yuumi. And Lulu works very well against certain champions, like Zed, for example, or any other assassins, because you can ult your ally, knock up those assassins, and make them survive. Yuumi doesn't work as well into those assassins, because yeah, she doesn't have that ultimate and the shielding that Lulu has. Next up is Alistar. Alistar is one of the best engaging supports as well. You know, with the ultimate, which makes him pretty much unkillable for 7 seconds. And his CC is just great. And then on top of that, his damage is also great. Like, don't underestimate Alistar's actual damage as well. Like, he can 1v1 ADCs in the late game. Alistar, that's right. Next up, we got Janna, who got buffed. Her tornado is much faster now, so you can actually reliably hit it. And Janna is just underrated. Like, she's so underrated. Her third ability gives such a massive shield and a lot of attack damage, which is great for ADCs. Her second ability is such an easy slow, and it deals good damage too. And then the ultimate, if an enemy pokes you a lot, you just ult and you heal up all of them. And talking about healing, we have Sona coming up next, who I think is the most underrated support in the game. Sona is so good. Like, besides the counters that she has, which is champions like Annie, what else actually? Malphite, Yasuo, you know, those hard diving, burst heavy champions. Besides those, if you can avoid getting one shot, the value she provides in the mid late game is like unrivaled. She provides a shield for every single champion that's close to her. She provides constant healing, constant damage with her first ability, constant movement speed, and the stun on her ultimate. And to top that off, she can exhaust an enemy every 2 seconds or 3 seconds. Because with the when you use your second ability and have 3 stacks, you're going to be reducing the enemy's damage, and then it depends on how much ability power you have, but it's like 40, 45%, maybe even 50% in the late game. And it lasts for a few seconds. So you can essentially make one of the enemies useless as a Sona in the late game. It's really, really crazy strong. The next up is Senna support. Like, Senna support, she can poke very, very well in the lane, and she also feels very strong. Like, her late game is pretty good as well. Her catching out potential is great with the second ability. Just as overall solid champion. Like, if you have to carry the game, if you don't trust your team, you just pick Senna and the support role and you carry it yourself. Next up is Braum. Braum is very powerful as well. The blocking of the projectiles provides so much value in certain drafts. His ultimate is amazing to follow up or to initiate a team fight. And then, of course, his passive, which allows you to stun an enemy for a really long duration with his first ability or with basic attacks. Next up is Nautilus, and Nautilus has become stronger, as I said, in the support role. Not quite as strong yet as the other S tier or S plus tier champions, but he's definitely stronger. His wave clear is just a bit faster. And I believe they buffed some other stuff about Nautilus too. Oh, they buffed his first ability, the hook. The hook is wider now. That's why I put him a bit higher in the A tier, yeah. So you can hit your hook more easily now. So he's definitely stronger. Still not where he has to be at, but stronger. Leona is great as well. She got buffed. She has such a long range. She can catch out enemies more easily now than before. So she's just overall very solid too. I want to talk about Lux as well. A tier support. They buffed her second ability. So you give more shielding to your allies. It scales a bit better with AP. So you give more shielding to your allies, which is great. And then another champion that I want to talk about is going to be the Soraka. She got nerfed, but she still feels okay. She's on top of the B tier, but she feels okay. She definitely feels okay. It's just like all of the other champions are so much stronger than her. Like, Pyke is just gonna catch a Soraka and destroy her, right? Like, and Karma is gonna outshield everything. And then Yuumi, even if you have a Soraka, it's not gonna work anything against a hyper carry attached with a Yuumi, right? Like, one of your allies is just gonna die to that. Anything else that I want to talk about? Not really. Like, the other champions, you can pick them for fun, but they're really not that strong. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tier list video, and yeah. Remember the 2,000 likes for the Shyvana video, and I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye bye.